reaction, response, recovery, renewal, and lastly, reframing. The last part is important because we anticipate that such crisis may happen again because we have to coexist with viruses like the COVID-19. Now, how do we juxtapose these 4 or 5 phases in the context of what's happening? So to me, the context would be, what is the best scenario if it ever happens? And what would be the worst scenario? And of course, in scenario building, the most probable, the most likely scenario. But these scenarios ought to be applied to some focus areas. And obviously, there would be about economics and business, one, technology, society, and of course, the COVID itself, the COVID-19 itself, which may be described as an understanding of epidemiology and so on. So these are the broad things that we need to understand before we can design to respond and to prepare for the new future, shall we say. So I leave it to the expert hands of Prof Jimmy. May I invite Prof Jimmy to take over?
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, everybody in Malaysia. I would say Selamat Petang, in the Chinese Ni Hao. And I would like to thank Paul and the Help University for this opportunity to present my thoughts and experiences in this area of crisis and emergency, which seems to be a topic throughout the world, not just Australia, but every country. So let me load my PowerPoint first, and I hope it works. I'm sure it will. Is the one. Okay, we are in business. Okay, guys, can you all see it? Can you all see my presentation?
Yes, we can.
Prof Jimmy, if you could put it on full screen, please.
Yes, I'm going to do now. Right?
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay, let's start then.
Just a reminder, sorry to disturb. For those not presenting, please turn off your microphones and your camera. Thank you.
Okay, once again, I also, it's a great pleasure too to be associated with Help University. And looking at your video, very impressive, the idea of the agent, the idea of the 4R, and the idea of you connecting with the 4th Industrial Revolution. Every country is talking about the 4th Industrial Revolution. And I think of people of the new, younger generation throughout the world, this is something you could take seriously into account. And the idea of what I say, the 4R, which resonates in my thinking, is in this paper too, or this talk. The idea, the notion of reframe, renew, restructure, which I will address throughout my talk on this day. So my talk is basically, I want to provoke you of some fundamental thinking, how do you deal with crisis and emergency, based a lot of my experience, as I said, in 15 years as the manager of emergency in Western Australia, based on 7 years of the oil and gas industry as a person responsible for oil spills and environment in Australia, dealing a lot of multinationals in Australia, and also perhaps based on research and academia. So what I want to do now, I want to also say as a caveat, this is not a talk of how you're going to do crisis response and management plan. This is a different discussion altogether. So if I may start first, the first question is, your boy said that. The question here I want to ask you now with COVID-19 now is now global. Global 19 has changed the game of response and thinking. It's global, it's ongoing, when it's going to end, the new normality, the new thinking. People are talking about rethinking, how do I manage, how do I do, how do I prepare? And also present a lot of challenges to crisis people, to the company, the CEO, executive, whether you're in government, corporate, NGOs, individuals, or practitioners. No doubt, make no mistake. And also the whole COVID-19 has caught many people off guard because it's not just a normal crisis. It's a crisis as a lot of efforts every level. Now, I'm sure you guys have heard of many of the crises before, of the global financial crisis of 2008, the SARS, 911. But COVID-19 is a different ball game. Why? Because it affects every level, from government to corporate, right down to individual, right down to the man that do the char kway teow or mee goreng for you. Seriously. So very interesting, there was an interview, a very astute interview between the ABC and one of the architect in the US on crisis management, not crisis management, of economists, how they were able to bring back the GFC back on board, which took 10 years. It's very interesting. The BBC person asked her, I said, look at your 2008 crisis management or crisis management in terms of getting back to business. It's just like a heart attack. You got the subprime, all the banking systems affected. You pump in money. You pump in money, they save the system. You bail this out, you bail that out. Very interesting. But it's just like a heart attack. Then he posed a very cutting question to this expert from the US. I think the COVID-19 is different. It's like septicemia. It's not a heart attack. Septicemia is a blood poisoning. Every part of your body is poisoned. That's what we have got now, COVID-19. So the question I want to raise down here, if you are now listening to me, or corporate and government or whatever level, from CEO to the front line to general manager, ask yourself these two questions. Are you at risk and are you prepared? So I wanted to along this line of at risk and prepared, and also the background of COVID-19. So these are the 5 major messages I want to discuss with you guys. Quick one. First question, are you ready? Next crisis and emergency. And what are the potential crises, emergency, government, corporation, and companies may encounter? And the third message I discuss upon discussions here is expectations and demands upon government, corporation, and companies. And the fourth and fifth talking point here is, this is a good one. If you are CEO, a board of directors, and senior position, pay attention to this. There will be liabilities on CEO and board of directors in the failure to prepare and be able to combat and manage crisis emergency. And its implications of doing nothing or delayed. I'll give many examples personally what I dealt with and also throughout the world. And last one, how do you prepare for it and what do you need to do to get ready to combat and manage a crisis emergency? As I said, I'm not teaching how the prescription, how to do crisis planning or emergency response and plans. There is a given topic altogether. First questions, let's explore. There is an overlap of definitions: crisis, pandemic, emergency, management, and business continuity. This seems imply they're the same, but they are not. They are overlap. So a crisis is like COVID-19, Exxon Valdez, whole lot of crisis, 911. They are events that are disruptive, unexpected, and abrupt, no warning. And what do you get? Unstable, dangerous situations to individuals, groups, community, and society. There's an element of surprise. Nobody expects COVID-19 to hit us. Nobody. Okay, short decision time, to make a decision, and the threat to organization. Organization to mean government, corporation, companies. Now, pandemic is actually an epidemiology term. And there's a definition of the worldwide, it means the worldwide spread of new disease of the WHO. And therefore the word, to cause a pandemic is a serious stuff and implication. That's why the Director General of the WHO paused, hesitated, and then made a statement. You all know that. Now, there is also a difference between crisis and emergency. And I want to make it clear for you guys, because if there is a difference here. Emergency is basically an operational response. It's serious, unexpected, it's dangerous. And the key difference here, it requires immediate action. So between crisis, you can have emergencies and serious emergencies between the crisis. So you have a crisis and suddenly you got emergency situation, Within your crisis, you got to respond. There's an emergency. Disaster management is when you have a crisis, an emergency, and a disaster. One big headache, one big concern. So therefore, it's a process. How do you deal with disaster? Because it's caused a harmful event. So they're all subset of crisis and also subset of emergency. Now, to confuse, a confusion here, people also, they get confused because the word business continuity, you know. So business continuity basically is a subset. You have a crisis, you have an emergency. What do I need to do to make my business continue? You're making Nike shoes, or your Petronas, your oil and gas, you could produce oil, or wherever. You got plastic factory, or wherever, you know. You can manufacture mee goreng, you can export around the world. What do you do to get your business going, called business continuity? So it's again, it was planning. So I thought I squared this away. Now, I'll go to some examples of categories of crisis emergency. Quick one, I'm sure you guys already know this. Human health, COVID-19, SARS, environmental, marine oil spills, accident of deaths, chemical fire, heaps of it, natural, storm, typhoon, earthquakes, financial, the GFC, bankruptcy of companies or people deal with, and they owe you money, and you have cash flow. They become a crisis for your company. You cannot operate. Operational supply chain breakdown. This is the most one, the most talked about now. We're having a supply chain breakdown or dented badly the last 6 months. To talk to anybody in business can tell you right now, we have a supply chain problem everywhere. Everybody is affected, every country, because we all become global. Because things from India, from China, from Bangladesh, from Malaysia. For example, 50% of the rubber gloves is made in Malaysia. In fact, the company now is doing so well. In fact, its shares is much better than the bank. Imagine a company of 50% rubber gloves and MCO. You got the issue of supply chain. Technological, obvious, cybersecurity, system, hacking, software, malfunction. System and software breaks down. Despite what the marketing people tell you, how robust, redundancy, they do break down and they cause you a crisis. You don't want to have that. So another one is malevolence, tampering, deception, etc. You don't want to have that. They will give you a crisis. Great example, in the 80s, Johnson & Johnson had a big crisis because they tampered with Tylenol, with the Disprin in the supermarket. Just imagine that. Whole question of product retrieval, how do you deal with it? Suddenly you got this idea of products. There is also a crisis of violence. We see right now. Now we're having a situation now we got COVID-19. Hello? Is somebody there? Now, we have a situation now of violence, of rallies, demonstration, riots, civil unrest. Look what's happening now. Or George Floyd demonstrations in the US. Is now in Australia, every major city of Australia, there is a demonstration. There's one next week in Perth and in London, UK, everywhere. Nobody planned for that. You got COVID-19, now you got demonstration, you know. Now you got product recall, I mentioned that. Now you got organized misrepresentation. You got a big headache if your company workforce misrepresents products. I give you a classic example. The best example. Sorry. Hello. Is somebody?
The moment my wife signed the thing.
Okay. I think someone is trying to talk too. Now, misrepresentation. Think Volkswagen. When Volkswagen represented its data for the diesel engine in 2018. My God, worldwide implications. People were saying, should I buy Volkswagen now, even though it's not a diesel engine? Okay, you think about it. This is a serious crisis. Your company may be involved if your company has representation of not to your control. Depends what level you are in the structure of the company. Now, I want to make the point here. All the above can be synergistic to each other. Give an example, COVID-19, now we got rally and protests, and they are fighting against each other. This is, they've got climatic change. Now we haven't talked about recession yet. I'll come to that under recovery. Now, so the question you ask yourself here is, these are some of the things I want from my experience working in this field many years and talking to people in this field, personal experiences, and also conferences and talking to people in the know in this field worldwide. And you see, I'll share with you some things are the weaknesses of not being prepared. Familiarity breeds contempt. It's something we learned as English language when I was at school in Malaysia. We know it all, you know. Will not happen to me. I know it all, you know. I know it all. Familiarity breeds contempt. Silo management. You work by yourself. You don't talk to others. You know it all, you know. A doesn't know B. The left hand doesn't know the right hand. Then this is a good one, okay? Bad advice, not listening, or listening to the wrong people. I'm sure you can conclude which world leader is doing this. I will not get political. You make your own conclusion that bad advice, not listening, or listening to the wrong people. That is another issue. Now, thinking you're at low risk, no, it happened to me. I'm fine. I've done it well. I got good managers. I got smart managers. I got money. I got budget. Will not happen to my organization. We are top A organization. How can it happen to us? So we are the leaders. Think again. Not wanting to spend is a common problem. And then you know the above, and you procrastinate and procrastinate and procrastinate, and it hits you. You know? So now you have done that and you decided, hey, this is a crisis. Okay? So let me say some here. Strategic and operational response in management, you understand this. All this run throughout the whole crisis of emergency. They are not linear component. It's all part of it, as I made the point. Now, what I found in terms of operational response, I use the word here a lot of times, strategic and operational. There's a difference to it. Okay, so many a times I confront emergency in my work when I was in government as a state manager for HEMS response. When I get emergency, the first thing in my mind, if I can share with you, I could be wrong, others can then agree or disagree and share. All I want to know quickly is between the first 15 minutes is what I need to know. What is the degree of impact? What is the scale of impact? I do a marine oil spill. I claim I did chemical fire. I want to know what is the degree of impact. I mean, how many people die? It was impacted. You know, how serious, intensity. How big is the scale? Is that 3 buildings, 2 buildings, 1 room? How long is the impact? 3 hours, 6 hours? It's going to go for days and days. That will shape your response. It's what it is. So this is my little sharing. So you have decided now there is a crisis. You are now formed your crisis management team. You are the leader. Whether you are the CEO, operation leader, whether it's strategy or emergency, and then you ask yourself this question. I'm now in charge. You are the person, you are it. Is there a good chance we escalate intensity? Next hour, 1 hour, tomorrow? Next question, ask yourself. Can it foster unwanted attention now? Outsiders, the community, the stakeholders will be calling you, the media will be calling you, the regular agents all be calling you. You are now on a roll. You are now stressed. You are now on duress. You are now have to think fast, move fast, act fast. All comes in. Then ask yourself, hey man, I still got business to do. I got 10 million bucks products to be manufactured, to be exported to Germany. How it's going to affect my normal business operation? I got a crisis in hand. I got to deliver to my clients. I got to fulfill my contract next week. All this jumps in now. Next thing, ask yourself, does it really make my organization look bad? Or cause my customers in Germany, my investors, you know, Maybank, you know, whatever bank you're dealing with, and others at agency, to lose confidence the way you're going to deal with the crisis. All this is going to jump at you. I have to think about it. Now, so next question here is, before you do crisis planning emergency, I'm going to share with you some of the thinking process, perhaps the fundamental thinking, if you are going to the next stage to start doing crisis planning emergency or business continuity or disaster management or emergency. Doesn't matter. It's the fundamental thinking I'm talking about. Always remember this. Whatever you do, it must come from the top. Everybody could answer to somebody sometime. If you are CEO, make sure you got the buy-in support of the board of directors. If you're a general manager, make sure your CEO drives it. If not, it will not work. Very simple TQM principles or total quality management principles. Think. What drives thinking is positive thinking. Okay, so you think right, you do right. You think about it, you're positive right. You think. Planning is the easy part. Do is the easy part. Check the easy part. Review is the easy part. Easy in the sense that it starts from thinking and positive thinking and drives it. I mean, easy in the sense that it can be implemented. It can be implemented within means and management, budget, resource, etc. So think, plan, do, check, review. Simple principles of TQM. I'm sure some of you all have masters, the PhD in TQM will know this. Now, I'm going to share to you the principles, methods, and approaches will shape your crisis management and planning. Okay, and that is then falls back onto think, plan, do, check, review. Now, you must also recognize this crisis emergence is a complex. It's not a what I call a linear model. It's not silo. It's complex because it's multi-level and multidisciplinary. It's not just engineering problem, environment problem, a finance problem. They are connected, depends on what your business organizations do or responsible for. You can think back. So therefore, it involves individuals in a company, organization, processes, institution, at 3 levels. Individual, your company, and then governmental. Now, I want to emphasize this. In fact, a lot of papers have come out now, especially COVID-19. Papers have come out now, and all they're the same to say the same thing. Do not forget the human factor, because you are dealing with people who are affected, people here, your employees, the public, and also people who react differently to crisis, emergency, and they were influenced by culture, locality, and circumstances. You know, I receive a lot of WhatsApp. You all got WhatsApp. Every chat WhatsApp for you, and I see people throw this thing. Hey, we are in the same boat. We can work together. And I respond in my friend around the world. We are not in the same boat, but we're facing the same storm. I think there's a difference to it. I want you to think about it. Are we the same boat? I don't think so. You guys who are listening to me in Malaysia, Singapore, China, Vietnam, UK, or Australia, wherever your country come from, are in the same boat, because you have different social, economic, political, and cultural differences, perception, and way of doing things. You're not in the same boat. You're different priority. So we are not in the same boat. You start from that notion and premise. I think you are able to deal with your crisis. As I said, you have culture, locality, circumstances, means of doing things, resources, experiences. Now, I want to introduce you what I call the key principles often used in crisis planning emergency, textbook stuff, you find out there, I'll go through it quickly. As I said, my talk here is not to teach how to do it, but I'll give you some key principles to think about. Now, is prevention, preparedness, response, and recovery. Prevention, risk assessment, analysis, ISO, all that, risk management, ISO 1300, the ghost of it. Okay, how to prevent things happening, a risk to your company, to be floods, somebody stealing, fire, etc. Now, how do you prepare for that? This is the risk. You've done your risk. You've done your algorithm. You've done your probability study. You've done your risk and consequence. Then I ask you the next question: how do you prepare for it? Your risk controls. How are your risks? Then you put in place mitigation and management policies, protocols, procedures, etc. If something goes wrong, your response. Now, you look at what's happening around the world. My personal perception, I like to be challenged. We are still talking about response, containment, lockdown, MCO. They're all response. They're all classical response of containment, confinement, mitigation, suppression. Different countries use different terms. We contain, we suppress. New Zealand says that we'll contain and we will eliminate. That's where Australia and New Zealand differ in thinking. New Zealand says that we will then open up if we contain and eliminate. We don't think so. We think down there, Australia's policy is we will contain and suppress. We will never eliminate. How can eliminate? We don't know yet. Could be second wave, third wave, vaccination. I don't think we eliminate. So the wrong word. I think so. So these are words of response, and it's scary. Every country is still at response stage. Now, this is the scary part. I don't think so any countries, any organization has gone to recovery. Recovery in the broad sense, many definitions, make it simple, bring it back to what it was before, the so-called nominality. And now guess what? We're thrown in a new word, the new normality. What the hell does that mean? And make no mistake, this recovery or normality is for a longer duration. It could cost you more money, lots of resources required, more complex. You are talking about recovery, economics, business, social, infrastructure, environmental, credibility, customers returning, etc., etc., etc. We're just starting a recovery, you know? Don't get excited. Just because you can go and eat your nasi lemak, you're not in recovery yet. You're just starting to do a recovery. All that is going to hit you. Every country is talking about it. Every country from the World Health, UN, you know, all the forums of intergovernment people are talking how the heck we are going to do recovery at the national level and the international level. So then you ask yourself these 5 questions. Okay, you are going to crisis, preparation, the key principles. You sit down and say, hey, we can do something. You ask yourself these five fundamental questions. Now, are my organizing crisis management plans adequate? You ask this deep question and they manage the next potential crisis. Next question. The organization I work with, doesn't matter whether it's Petronas or government or Singapore Ministry of Defense or wherever, ask yourself, is your organizing process enabling? So I choose the word purposely. Enabling means you're able to implement, able to do. Okay, you might have a process, but can it be done? Can it be implemented quickly? Does it allow you to do things? And enabling is a very good word. To effectively manage or organize information needs and the range of issues and challenges that may arise during a crisis or emergency. Have a think. That question you should ask yourself now. Does my organization I work for have the required tools, structure, resources? Tools will be software, engineering, whatever, trucks, firefighting equipment. Structure are you structured into the management? You know, your policy. Structure means the way you organize things, management, operational. And resources, human, budget, capability, knowledge. To proactively is the right word. Proactive is the key word. Manage the situation and anticipate possible consequences. Last 2 questions. If my organization is not in the crisis mode, what can be done now to prepare and get ready for next potential crisis emergency? And this is where this whole thinking now of COVID-19 have changed a lot of thinking. I can tell right now, the people I talk to, my friends or businesses throughout the world are now thinking, hey, we better prepare. You know, we've been hit by COVID-19. Many levels been hit. So this is a good one for you to think about. What kind of leadership do we need or must have? If you're a board of directors, ask yourself, is David Tan the right person to take us through the next crisis? Or do I advertise for a new CEO, the way he performed? You think about it. Then your CEO will say down there, is Arumugam the right general manager for this component business unit I'm working? Does he have it to lead? But don't worry, don't get worried, because there's such a thing as mentoring, training, it's also about, which I'm going to come to, okay? All of us are learning. Nobody's a perfect. There's no such as a perfect leadership. No way. If you do down there, you're fooling yourself. You're doomed to fail. Now, so what would you do is, there's something not to do, and can we have that, not to do that above, why it says the 5 things. You don't ask the first 5 questions, it can have dire consequences for your company or organization, even next crisis. It may not be COVID-19, but 2, it could be anything your company may have to do with. It could be GFC. Now, second point of discussions is the question I ask, I want to provoke you is, what are the potential crisis, emergency, government, if you're from government, corporation and companies may encounter, and its implication doing nothing or delayed actions. There are many types of crisis, emergency, I've already mentioned to you, may encounter, and have to deal with, and it will depend on the nature of the organization, your government, Petronas, manufacturer, service-oriented, wherever, hotel industry, and the business you do. And then you can decide the list of crises which I've listed for you, which one affect you? All the above, 1, 6, and 9, 1, 4, and 6. Have to think about it. Have to think. Because if you don't, you leave them out, and then it can hit you. Many companies, companies who have done all kinds of crisis planning, forgot some of things. People impact, riots impact. I can tell you, I've seen many crisis management plans. I'm involved in many top-level meetings in Australia, in government, at a very high level. I can tell you of the 3 committees I sit on in Australia for hazmat, for CBRM, counter-terrorism, and marine oil spill on the state level. We never talk of COVID-19. The closest we talked was SARS in our planning process. Seriously, we never talk of COVID-19. We talk about SARS and avian flu. It was brought up. How we deal as a state, Nobody expect that. COVID-19. Seriously, you talk to all your friends. Nobody expect that. This is discussion now. So you got to think about that, and then you can do it. Now, do nothing and delay actions. Say no more. You have seen plenty of news. I will not waste my time. The US, Italy, Spain, many countries delayed. Some did well. China did well. South Korea did well. Second wave, they did not do well. Hong Kong did well. They got riots again. They reconsider. Singapore was like the model. The whole idea of Singapore did so well. Blah blah blah. Guess what? Singapore now back to square one. Then they forgot about the migrant workers. Think about it. Okay, this is what I'm trying to say. You got to think out the box. What if you could really think out the box now? Reframe, restructure, renew. Exactly the 4-hour help university. And then Australia and New Zealand did quite well. That's why we are now opening up to phase 3. Next week to phase 4. Things are more or less back, except for large gathering. Sorry, you cannot come and see perhaps a rock concert. That is still banned. Now, you do not want to be caught in a perfect storm. Perfect storm happens. Give me an example. Australia was caught in a perfect storm for 3 months. Our bushfire was a perfect storm. I wrote to my friends, why? Number 1, summer, hot temperature. Number 2, climatic change. Number 3, they could not do what I call control burning. Number 4, a lot of places which burn, they were not allowed to burn because of the lobbying of the Green Group. Number 5, local government and state government trying to appease a concern for the Green Group, try to appease the community who are complaining, you burn, I get smoke, I don't like it, I can't do beach. All this line up and we had a fire. Seriously, you got fire in every state every day. Serious. When I look at the map of Australia, every state had a red mark. Red mark means emergency fire. That is a crisis we had never encountered in Australia. We are still now dealing with the recovery of it. It was like, I said to my friend, it was a perfect storm situation. You do not want to put your company or your organization or your nation in a perfect storm. And this is where I think this is where I'm trying to provoke you. Do not be yourself in a perfect storm. This is the time to prepare your boat to deal with. Now, number 2.2. Now, implication, if you don't do it, loss of life, obvious. Human health impact, obvious. Environment impact, obvious. Employee stress and mental issue, obvious. All these issues are going to hit you. Cost money. Okay, employees get stressed to come to work. Of course, how to get the production? Blame. They look for blame. They will blame you. Bad media coverage. You don't want that. Your stakeholder will get annoyed with you. Your community will get annoyed with you. The last two, let me frighten you. Class actions. Let's watch this one. Watch this COVID-19. We haven't finished yet. We haven't got a recovery yet. We don't know yet if the class actions or not. Would there be class actions? The government not do his role? You know, they will talk about, I mean, there were discussion in the news. People want to sue China. Think about it. Now, there will be regular prosecution, even jail time. Make no mistake, depends which country you are living in. They will start doing a probe. Did you do things correctly? Did you follow the law? You know, when I give emergency in Australia, I got part A and part B. My priority in part A is deal with the emergency. I'm not thinking about prosecution. When things get over, guess what? My whole prosecution team is in place now. Look at the company that deals with the spill in my environment, Australia. I start looking at them and say, have they not complied with the Environment Protection Act of Western Australia? Were they not compliant on which section of the Act? This is how government works. So you do not want to be caught up thinking you've done a good job, and then suddenly, guess what? You can knock on the door and the government says to you, excuse me, let's look down there at your process, your procedure, your planning. Did you do what you're supposed to do? So these are things I thought I raised the real world stuff. And then I want to go back here quickly, this one. Blame. Let me share something to you in the crisis, very interesting. A deputy commissioner of police 10 years ago, or 12 years ago, at a meeting told me, he said, Jimmy, every time the police officer graduate from mainland academy in Perth, I tell them three things. This is the real world you live in, police officers. This is it. When things go wrong in emergency, there will be 3M. Okay? The first M is there will be mayhem. Everybody is happening. A lot of things happening. Or you're running around to deal with a problem. And then there always will be a mastermind. A mastermind is somebody not involved, will come on Malaysian TV, CNN, BBC, Channel 9, Channel 7, and they are the expert. They say, when I was a general, when I was fighting down there, that's not how I fight the Taliban. Oh, that's how I do the marine oil spill. Oh, they can sit a cup of coffee in the aircon, right? But they are not under pressure. Guess what? After that, everything cools down, there will be a manhunt. They will start looking for somebody to blame. Somebody who muck it up. Somebody with no leadership. Something to do the job. So something I want to share with you, and I see it all. I seen the manhunt, I see the mastermind, and the manhunt. When I was in government, I used to tell my staff, and I used to tell the community I belong to, God said, guys, I do not want a manhunt. I was very vocal in government. I said, guys, listen, you do your job, I do my job. Let's be serious. I do not want a manhunt. Touch wood, I left government after 5 years. I never had a manhunt or any inquiry or media inquiry on me. And I'm not out of this, and I'm out of it. I'm still like a relief on my shoulder when I got out of government to deal with crisis emergency, because the stress is there. You do not want a manhunt. Trust me, it's no fun. Number two. Now, if you, okay, where am I? Number three, talking about number three, expectations and demands upon government, corporation, companies in terms of crisis. I use the word demand on purpose. The word demand is now used in the media. The media demands government to act. The community demands the corporations to act, the government to act. Your shareholders demand you to do the right job. Make no mistake, the word is demand, not please. Can you please do? Excuse me, you got a crisis, deal with it. We demand solution, we demand answers, we demand outcomes, we demand benefits, etc., etc. And this is where you need clear and strong leadership. Okay, you need regular, accurate, and factual information dissemination that can be believed and trusted. Look at the news now. How many leaders are failing? I won't get political. I never do in my talks. You can read for yourself. You know, where the community, the information is not factual, harboring of fake news, etc., etc. And guess what? Nobody believes them or trust them anymore. Organization or government, wherever. You could take command and control immediately. You're the leader. You're paid to do that. You're in charge. You're the government. You're the CEO. You can take ownership because it's not mine. You can say, excuse me, this has nothing to do with me. Blame China. You can't do that, you know. So you could take ownership. Yes, I will deal with it. We recognize it. And there's a whole stock by itself. Now, you can address the problem and come up with solutions and not play blame game. Your voters, the community, your stakeholders, your employees expect it from you. I want you to solve the problem. I'm not interested to play a game and blame people. Who cares? I need that. I want a solution. That will play. Every day will be played out, you know. And then guess what? You also have to provide the required and proper resources and support. It's very simple. Finance, human resources, material. You got to pay, you got to pay. What do you expect? You have a crisis now? What? Are you going to do a shortcut? I don't think so. You know, you got to talk to your bank. I need to deal with it. You're not feeling that, you get worse. You're going to go bankrupt because you got a crisis. Your company is going to die. It's going to affect it. You got to deal with it. Finance, human resource, and material. There's a whole talk by itself. Now, you got to collaborate and cooperate. You don't want to become antagonistic. You know, you got to collaborate and cooperate. Every academic paper, resource paper can tell you that. Now, you can look after the interests of its citizens. You have a government, employees, business, shareholders, stakeholders, affected parties, and people. Certainly not tokenism and empty gestures. People are not stupid. The community are no more stupid because social media, you know, people now talk among themselves. People exchange notes globally. How do you do this here? How do you do this there? Let's share. Who do you call? Which MP should you talk to? Blah, blah, blah. So people now are smart. You treat people as stupid, you get a big problem. And people are really all the papers that have come out so far the last 3 months, in the last 2 months reading, all seems at this point, look after the people. It's something not talked about in management before, not much, you know. This has come now one of the key point of management thinking, strategic and operational. Look after the people and all that goes with it. Now, number 4, liabilities. Let's talk about liabilities. You don't do it, dismissal of the post. That's happened. My department of environment I worked for before I was joined, I was appointed by a parliamentary inquiry that there should be a manager. I was the first manager appointed by a parliamentary inquiry and recommendation of the parliament and the cabinet, and I was appointed as the first environment manager for HAZMAT for Western Australia. I stand proud to say that. And I led it for 15 years in my term of office and had manhunt. So before I went on to take the position, the CEO of the department was dismissed. The director was dismissed because of a crisis the department did not handle well for a chemical incident. The CEO was dismissed. Director was dismissed. He did a good job before. It happens all the time. You were dismissed. So, number 2, your share value of your company will decline. It's happening right now. You have a loss of business and trade. Guarantee you, it's happening right now. If you don't start managing and getting ready for the next crisis in emergency. You have lost in confidence in government, organizing, and company actions. I need not convince you. Just read for yourself all the news. Don't read fake news, for God's sake. Read all those credible news agencies. You can see how much around the world people are saying what it. At the same time, not be negative, there's also an increase in confidence. Depends on the country. Okay, everything's not negative. There's both sides to it. I'll give you an example. In Western Australia, there is an increase in the West Australian Premier, Mark McGovern. Why? He handled it so well. Not only he took containment, he put a special Facebook. Every day he communicated with us. We knew exactly. So therefore, we can know what is, there's no fake news. I'll give you an example. For example, we have 4 boats who came in to Fremantle, all got COVID-19, you can see the rumors going around. You can see the rumors if he didn't come in to communicate and show leadership. The rumor will be 4 ships come to Fremantle, they say embark, whole Fremantle is now contaminated. And that will go on and on social media. No, the Premier step in and say, this is what we are doing, this is what we are allowed, we start it now, don't worry, blah, blah, blah. And that the confidence of the government. So people now, all my friends, myself, we go to the website or the Facebook of the Premier and see what it says. And it's, throughout the day, there'll be data of number of cases, actions taken, next step, what's happening next. And to gain confidence. In many countries, a lot of confidence have done that. You know, it's not all bad. There's both sides to it. If you don't, you're lost of confidence. Now, the voters, the community, the shareholder, and stakeholder will be frustrated. Everybody will be angry. I said that. The media will be hounding you. There'll be lawsuit. There'll be personal. Let me tell you a personal situation. My colleague, in December 2007, there was an incident whereby there was a bushfire in Kalgoorlie. For those who come from Australia, we know where Kalgoorlie is, 6 hours from Perth. Is a gold mining area. It burned on the 23rd and burned on the 24th. 25th is Christmas Day, right? My colleague in bushfire, he was the what I call the on-scene commander. He was the commander in control, and he opened the road between Kalgoorlie and Perth under pressure because it was Christmas Day. Pressure, he opened the road. Guess what? 3 trucks, 1 truck and 2 vehicles were caught because there were change in conditions. They were caught and they died in a fire. Inquiry on the department. And guess what? The insurance company personally sued my friend. Man, he was stressed big time. Stressed big time. The department was accused. There was an inquiry. The insurance not happy because they had to pay for the insurance of the 3 vehicles lost, and they sued my friend for not doing his job as a poor commander, opened the gate, and as a result, they were claimed against the 3 vehicles. And he was stressed out, man. He took no pay leave. My CEO was quite good, protected him, we on no pay leave, and he resigned. He went into all kind of counseling. Can you imagine being sued? You try to do the right job and get sued personally. Excuse me, personally, it become liable. He was sued, and after that, the case was dropped. But you know, this is what it's all about. So do not think just because you're working on a corporation, you can hide under your corporate legal framework, insurance, and protection. Read your contract carefully, so I can say to you, if things go wrong, are you protected? That's all I can say. Because I do that when I was in government. I wrote to my DG, am I protected? I was making decisions all the time. You know, what if something goes wrong? Is Jimmy Seow be sued? So have a think about it. Class action we talk about, won't waste time. Now, we talk about that, loss of credibility, won't waste time. Now, last talking point, how do you then prepare? You know, it's my last talking point. What do you need to do to get ready and able to come back and manage a crisis emergency? As I said, you start from the top. If you don't have one, you better get memo your CEO, or your CEO better can tell the board of directors, we should have one. You should start the planning now, not tomorrow. And then once you do that, drives the process, as I said to you, to the quality management. Then you can do risk management. This is very simple. You can identify the risk, assess it, analyze it, and the controls or subset. Then also to recognize the weakness and also the strength. That's why, you know, people are now talking about revamp, restructure, renew, the 4 R's. The 4 one I can't remember. Paul, you can, the system 4 R help me use that. I really resonates with me, the 4 R. You know, revamp, you know, reframe, renew, restructure. One more R, I can't remember. And this is what it's all about. And I think Help University 4R is on the ball, the way I say it. I'm not, you know, and I'm so proud to be associated with them. I'm so glad asked me to present. Now, you got to also identify what is needed, and for God's sake, have a budget to it. It's not a Mickey Mouse, and be totally committed. Do it right first time, total quality management. Don't do it half, you know, half, because you're going to bite you, you know. Now, you could actually now, not just talk about it, or wait for the perfect time or resourcing. You know, remember, procrastination. Procrastination kills you. Many people, yes, important. You go a lot of courses, you hear my talk, they put it away to a hand basket. I said, let's do it 2 weeks time. Let's do it 6 months time. We have a retreat, you know, somewhere. We talk about it into strategy of the company. And guess what? In between, you got a crisis. And then you say, I told you so, we should have done it too late. Now, while you're doing that, always remember, you're going to bring all on board. Not just your managers, not just the expertise, not just consultants, the whole lot, the employees. You need your employees. Your employees are the one is going to do the work, are the one who's going to respond. They're going to help you. They're going to stay loyal. They want to feel confident they can do it as the team. You don't get your employees on site, no matter how good your plan is, how brilliant your thinking, how smart your leadership, your employees will be your weakest link. It's been shown. I've seen it. Read all the papers yourself. Go to Harvard Business School and read papers after papers that come out now on the role. Papers talk about employees and the people. Now, share and learn from others. You've got to trust and you've got to learn. This is a new thing of COVID-19. People say, hey, we could talk more and trust more and learn with each other, not silo. You know, I could trust you more. Not telling you that, I'm not asking you to share your secret, how you make your glove and then your company come undermine you. I'm not talking about that. This is commercial stuff. I'm talking, how do you do things, you know? How do you get your employees on board, the cultural shift, the thinking, the operation? How do you do that? You know, how do you budget it? How do you convince the CEO to come on board? How do you get your CEO or to do his job as a leader? The guy's not very good, but how do I work my CEO, have your leadership? All these of things. Everybody facing this issue of different degree, shape and form. Talk to them. Talk to your friends. You trust and learn. You know, training is obvious. You know, in-house, external exercises. It could be regular. It could be realistic, objective, auditable, desktop, field. We all done that. Realistic. Let me give you an example. I gave a talk. Interesting, the talk actually was hosted by HELP. Paul, you remember, you asked me to talk in Malaysia. We deal with terrorism and stuff, and I gave a talk. And one of the speakers was a captain, a retired captain from the Singapore Air Force, was a consultant. And his talk, he said something I thought very interesting to learn from. He said, look, when you talk to clients on training, you must tell them also must be realistic. He was telling me that he was trying to do a training scenario for a port in Singapore. I won't mention the port, not so nice, but he mentioned it, but I won't. And he said that these clients said to me, Captain, I want a really good training. You know, everything that goes wrong, I can deal with it. I can deal with it. He said, Captain, yep, let's go to the scope of work. Yep, can be done. We can do all that, not a problem. He says, I want to do a scenario so that includes if somebody bomb my port. So the captain says, who's going to bomb your port? This is possible, not probable. Now, I want to understand this term here. I use a lot in my talks. There's a difference between possible and things is probable. You have to think about it. Everything is possible, but is it probable? Okay? So this scenario here was, yeah, somebody might bomb the port, possible, but not very probable. So he would tell the client, don't waste your money. I'm not going to do a scenario for you going to bomb your port. If someone going to bomb your cargo ship or your vessel in the Singapore Strait, yes, that is realistic. You know, that's possible of terrorist attack that affects your port operation. But to have an aircraft, F-18 bomb your port, I don't think so. This is a warfare situation. So when you do training, make sure you don't go unrealistic, because that's where it makes no sense. That's where your CEO will reject it. This way your employees will reject it. Say, this makes no sense. I'm wasting my time. Okay. Now I want to end here. Perhaps no, sorry, not here, not any of this point. The talking points. Now, I use the word on purpose. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Can't emphasize this more. Communicate, communicate, communicate. You got to communicate when you have a crisis. Own pre-crisis. Talk about pre-crisis first. Many plans fail, no matter how good. Because the top management thought they got the best plan, because the best consultant, best managers, best staff, best ideas, and they forget to communicate down the line. Guess what? You are in silo now. And then you got crisis management. You expect your production factory managers to can do the job. He wasn't told what was the priority, what was the objective, what was the expected outcome, how does plan work, what's the protocol, where get resources, who they can help, how's it going to work? You know, the guy down the factory floor, forget about the guy on the factory floor, let's go down lower. The gatekeeper, the one that opens the door for you, you don't take seriously. Every day he opens the door for you, go to your factory. Okay, you think the guy is nobody, he's somebody, you know. How do you expect the gatekeeper to able to be part of your team where your gatekeeper that opens the gate for you doesn't know where your company is going to do in the crisis? He's going to ask you a question. Am I going, boss, hey boss, am I going to die or not? You know, you can answer the question. Guess what? He's get scared, he's going to go home or wherever. Who's going to man your gate? People fail to understand that. They think only crisis planning and management only managers. The managers know they're smart. They got MBA, they got MIT. All down the line, you got to communicate. I can't emphasize this more. This is part of communication. Very important. If you don't, you have a problem. Now, also another issue here, you got to address here. What you can do down here, training, is issue leadership or lack of leadership. Okay, these are some, sorry, I've jumped now. So these are, what I'm going down here is some of the challenges, my apology, this is a different point. Challenges they may encounter during crisis emergency. Lack of leadership, I mentioned that. Availability of accurate and reliable data and information. You will get that, I guarantee you. How can everything is all moving, you know, they are dynamic. You will never know. No, you will never get full data 100%. You'll be naive to think so. Now let me share you something, my thinking, which is also shared by a commander that fought the Taliban. He was the intelligence officer of the American Armed Forces to fight the Taliban. And I saw an interview with him and shaped my thinking. It's how I think. And I thought, wow, I'm so glad he thinks like me. He's much smarter. He fights the Taliban, I don't. And he asked me, I said, when you fight the Taliban, how do you think? When you have enough data, you're going to deploy your Delta force to fight the Taliban, Kandahar, wherever. How do you do it? I said, in my field of business, this is how it works. I get data, the best of my knowledge of my team, the best. That's all he gave me. I have no time to go and check or trust them or question them. That's it. It comes in my data. I make an intelligent assessment based on the data. At this point in time, at 9:40 p.m. a.m. in Kabul, I'm going to, as they say in America, kick ass now in Kandahar. I'm employing Delta Force to go in. What do I do? Go, no go. In military terms, it's very simple. Go, no go. They don't mess around. Go, no go. So this is what I do. What I know comes in. What I don't know, I ask. What I think, I make a decision. That's it. This is the same thing as crisis. You know, you can't check, it's not a committee. You can do a research in no time. What you know, what you don't know, you make a decision. I've done it 15 years of my life. All the time I do it. And this is what it's all about. What you know, what you don't know, what you think. Now, if you go back on that point, I want to help you out. So therefore, to do that is where your crisis planning and management comes in. Because allow you to ask clever questions, allow you to think through the process, allow you to talk to your engineers now to write questions, and the technical questions, the policy questions, the chemical questions, the funny questions, whatever question you want, it's on your head. The more you prepare, the better it is. So when I was in what response for emergency for the state, I can assure you, I prepared myself of everything I need to know. Chemicals, technical, I don't walk in, I prepared myself all the time. It's how I'm structured. Therefore, I'm not caught up on a manhunt. That's how it works. So that is what it's all about. You always have that problem. Now, you always have this problem. Availability and mobility of resources. Human, you have capability, you have organizer skills, experience, you have funding material, you have that. No company have everything. If there's one, tell me, I'll join them, or you can join them. No way. You have some degrees of it, from good, the bad, and ugly. Hopefully you belong to a company, it's good. It has most of it. There will always be poor command and control system and structure. Trust me, I've seen it, poor command. You walk into a crisis, you're part of the command structure, you can see the commander in charge, don't have it. And you're going to work with poor command. That's life. Deal with it, and these are some of the challenges. Or the control system is not up to scratch, not what it's supposed to be. Even if it's a structure, they never follow the plan. All these type of things happens, especially if you guys from military can tell right now, every time they go to war, something change. There's no perfect war situation where everything goes to plan, Now, so lack of management plan, I mentioned that, and whether it's effective or efficient execution. And then you get poor and delayed communication, I mentioned that. And nothing worse than there is a crisis, there's personal and hidden agendas and interests. Oh my God, that is a nightmare. Whether it's at government level, organization level, or company level. You have that, you have to deal with it. You have to deal with that. And you deal with that pre-crisis management. If you have that, it's something to be aware of. Politics and politicking will happen. Politics within companies and politicking, not just in government, in companies too. Of course, there'll be politicking. Shareholders own 40% of your company. They might want to push you to do a crisis so that they are now affected. That's politicking. They become a whisper to your CEO. I don't think Sultan is doing a good job. Why? Because they own 40% of the company. Want to make sure CEO Tan listens to him or her so that they can then continue to export to Germany. Think about it. They'll always be there. Okay? There will be competing demands and priorities. As I said, you got a crisis, and then some director will come to you and say, hey, hang on, it's not that big deal, I think our bigger deal is that we got to complete our contract to Germany. You got competing demands now and priority. Who's the referee? Leadership goes back to the top. Right or wrong, is what it's all about. Okay, there's no right or wrong answer, but there's no right answer in crisis and emergency. Let me explain. What you want is the best outcome. There's a difference to it. The best outcome for the crisis emergency you're dealing with. It cannot be 100%. No way. Then, as I said, you're playing unlucky, the perfect storm. So to end up my talk, I just want to give you quickly some of the questions. I won't go through it. I won't waste your time. I won't read them. Just some of the questions you might want to think about. In fact, I got several. I won't read to waste your time. I just put it for you. Let's give yourself 10 seconds look through. These are some questions you should start thinking about. What's your goal? Is there a difference? What is the crisis management plan? What's the strategy you want to take? All this. What are the key strategic leadership you want to consider? What's the best practice? What stage of crisis management should you deal with? And what are the steps different type of crisis? How to communicate? How do you build your strength? How to get a team going? How to identify a crisis? The psychology of crisis, how people process information, and how to handle a client crisis. So I think I will end by give you 3 takeaway messages. I make it simple. Plan and prepare now. If you have no plan, better start now. Consider what if scenario when you're planning. Think out the box. Reframe, renew, restructure, rethink, as I can say. Like a what if scenario, okay? The what if scenario also must be realistic, based on risk assessment too. Delay is not an option. So I can say to you guys. And then in some of the courses you might want to consider. As a starter, you have not done it, I would suggest you do. I actually run this style of course in Australia. It's called Crisis, Emergency Management and Planning, Awareness and Basic Principles. Many of them which I mentioned in my talks already. And then in that down there, I teach you how to do a crisis planning and management plan. I teach you strategic thinking. I teach you fundamental thinking. And I teach you what do's and don'ts do get it wrong. I mean, right, wrong word, let me rephrase it. Do's and don'ts for you to consider when you're doing your crisis and emergency management plan. Then the whole lot of stuff which are nowadays being offered, response recovery management, risk assessment, control mitigation, hazmat and environment risk management, public health, communicating risk, how do you communicate, business continuity, finance, insurance risk. There are many courses. I just thought I'd share a few with you guys, that's all, and for you to think and consider. So I think that I'm not trying. I think the first one, if you want to do or you're not done yet, do the first one. That's the one. Is basic awareness and basic principle, and then you build from them because you can understand what is required. And the number one is you address why and what and how and who. My talk so far is more on why and what, and not so much on how. It's more on why and what. And I think on that note, that's it. I hope I didn't talk more than too long. So good. I spoke exactly 50 minutes, which I budgeted for.
Thank you so much, Jimmy. So far, I haven't seen anyone asking questions. You have overwhelmed us with your mastery of the topic, and you have given us great, useful ideas, but more than that, usable ideas. I would like to ask you this, that one of the messages that you seem to pass to us is that at this moment, most of us may have built the capability to manage the crisis, but we have not learned crisis leadership to lead through the crisis. Can
Good
you?
question. Yeah. Sorry?
Yeah, that's a question.
I think
yeah.
it's a
At this moment, at best, we are only managing, but we are not leading through the crisis.
That is a very good question, which I've seen it all the time. Talk to people, different companies, committees, I sit on, and it always comes up, leadership. End of the day, and anything is leadership, right? Okay, let me, if I may, thanks a lot for that's a good question. Now, a lot of crises they recognize by people and also papers is that it tends to be over-managed but under-led. Let me expound on that. Let me amplify that, what I mean by that. So there's a lot of over-management but lack of leadership. And that there are a couple of points I want to share. One of them is that a lot of crisis managers, whoever is appointed to lead, to manage the crisis as a leader, suffer from what I call a tunnel vision or narrow vision, blinded and silent. Let me give you an example. What in crisis and emergency, more in crisis, one must be very clear along two things. You are a leader.
Dr. Jimmy, can I ask you to unshare the slides so that your camera will be maximized?
Unshare, how do I do that?
Close the sharing.
Stop presenting, is it?
Yeah, stop presenting. That's right. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot. Okay, let me answer. So the first point, they are narrow. They get narrow. They get a narrow view, a tunnel vision. They get siloed. They get blinded. Why? Because a strategic leader is not really a manager, it's a leader. There's a difference between the manager and the leader. What I'm trying to say here is that the leader must have a strategic overview of where you want to go and deal with the crisis. The manager deals with the emergency, operation manager, the disaster manager. There's a difference to it. And because when you are a crisis leader, there are many things I call the bigger picture stuff is going to affect you. The community outrage, the community impact, the politics, the legal issue, the media issue. All these other things the managers don't deal with. You deal with it as a leader. And also, that comes also with the kind of crisis you're dealing with. COVID-19, emergency, GFC, depends. Let me give you a good story, perhaps it illustrates quite clearly about strategic and operational. And I think that imagery I'm going to give you says it all. A captain on a ship sailing. The captain knows as he sails, he may encounter iceberg. The captain wants to be a good guy, he or she, be a good girl, good lady. Guess what? The captain then says down there, let me help the chef, who's the manager, to peel potatoes. What's wrong here? What's wrong here then? The captain has become managerial, not strategic. Why? Who is now going to guide the boat? Make sense? And this is what happens. So you be very careful. You don't go down at the managerial level, operational level, and you forget your strategic responsibility as the leader. Number two, many of CEOs or people in charge for crisis, they use the word, they get seduced by managing rather than leading. And they forget strategic and they become operational, which I said. Another point here is that many of leaders who are asked then to crisis, they forget that they get carried away and they want to do all by themselves. You know, they say, wow, I want to do it myself. You know, they're not leading anymore. They become a control freak. And they forget they've got other people which are part of the crisis. The stakeholders, other government agencies, other companies who will help you. And often in what I call the post-crisis analysis or meetings among shareholders or government agencies, a common thing will come up and it will say, he or she took over and did not involve us and listen. I heard it so many times, you know, it becomes ugly, you know. You took over. You did not listen to us. You did not listen to us. You did not involve us. We are all teamwork. We are part of the same agency to deal with it. You took over, you know, and becomes really embarrassing and ugly. The last point here is that, as I said, many of the leaders, when they fail because they forget, as I sit down there, the issue of welfare for the employees and the people or the public, and have empathy. And they forget unified command for a common purpose or objective. And that's where this leadership stuff, you know, is not managerial, you know. And that's why this is what I see is the failure of what I call overmanaged and underled.
There is a question here about modeling, whether models, quantitative models and the like, can exist to protect this type of pandemics. What is your view? Are they useful?
Wait, what's the question? A quantitative model?
Yeah, modeling, yeah. Or
to be honest, I don't. There are many definitions of quantitative modeling. Depends what you're talking about. Total modeling in terms of economy or in terms of management. I just
maybe I reframe the question somewhat. How do we frame the future to make our preparation for future crises when we do not know the unknowables?
Okay, that is a very good question, because when we talk about crisis, there will always be the three things that comes up. There will be ambiguity, uncertainty, and unfamiliarity. Okay, so when you do crisis managing, you can only postulate based on your risk management, risk on your modeling, what could be the worst case scenario. That's all you can do. Nobody can crystal ball it. That's why nobody could crystal ball COVID-19. If not, it went into a mess today. Sure, I talked to people in Singapore. They said that we did quite well. Okay, let's talk about Singapore. Let's talk about Singapore modeling. This is a good one. Okay, it's not a judgment of Singapore. Singapore has said it. I heard it. The minister said it. Go Singapore. My Singapore friends tell me, look, no, we have done SARS before. My Hong Kong friends say to me, we have dealt with SARS before. We could have processed the protocol. And my Singapore friends told me, we're so proud. We got 5 hospitals, 1 hospital special, blah, blah, blah. Yet, they forgot to model the impact of the migrant workers causing the next cluster. Make sense? Because this is what happens in crisis. In crisis, there's certain things will come and bite you, but there are principles that deals with it in case it bites you. That's how we deal with it. There'll be always unknowns, but it's the process you put in place. It's the thinking and management process you put in place that give you the resilience, the capability, and ability to apply those process and thinking to deal with a crisis. Could be COVID-19, second wave, wherever. This is how I see it.
Okay. Jimmy, there's a question on how do you classify a black swan?
I don't know what's a black swan.
A black swan. Black swan, SWAN.
Yeah, and a black swan is, if you can tell me
something that is not predicted.
Oh, that is a hard question.
Just happened. Yeah.
I don't know the answer because in fact, crisis deals with black swans. Okay, the more black swans you can think of out of the box, what if, the more prepared you are. That will be my approach. If I was a CEO for one today right now, I'll tell my team what could be the black swans that can hit us. I'll ask the whole company, what could be the black swans? It was a surprise. And then you get a whole laundry list, perhaps 50. I mean, this example. And then you do a risk analysis and what is the probability. And then you deal with the most probable. This how I would do it. Risk analysis, what's the most probable? And then as your black swans. Because not all the same black swans have the same probability. They have the same possibility, but not have the same probability. You know.
I noticed that you speak with a lot of passion, and there's a lot of focus on people.
Yes.
I think one of the things that we have forgotten as we react and respond to this crisis is that perhaps we have forgotten to ask that there's a lesson about the purpose of life.
Yes.
Maybe I sound a bit philosophical in this sense, that most of us have forgotten to make meaning and make sense of what's happening. Because our energy and attention are focused to resolve some immediate challenges, and most of them are about our businesses, loss of customers, the bottom line,
Yeah, I'm listening.
cost management, and so on. We forget that all these lockdowns, all this search for the vaccine, etc., are actually attempts to have life preservation. But then we have to ask, for what purpose then, if the virus in the bigger context of things is something very Darwinian?
I'm so glad you raised that point, Paul, because there's a paper I read by an American CEO only about last week. And I asked him, in terms of leadership, what you say. He used it in one word. One word. He says, forget all the things he said one word I will share with the audience. How genuine you are in dealing with the crisis that includes people. You know, it comes down to your core value. And he said, very interesting article, he said down there, look, your genuineness doesn't start on the day of crisis. You put on your hat, I'm now the crisis manager. It starts where, before crisis, who you are as a person, as a core value, you can call it moral, ethical, spiritual, philosophical, whatever. It starts from there. And this is where you gain leadership. You're seen as a genuine person, and you may emphasize the point. You must be seen as a caring person for your company, because these are the people that will go out with you and then fight for you in the crisis. And this is a fundamental thinking in military. You cannot expect your troops to fight for you against the Taliban. You don't care for them, and they die. In fact, one of the military thinking is that, you do not leave anybody behind. That is the ethos of the American Marines. Leave nobody behind. In a whole Hollywood full of it, somebody left behind, you go back and fight and get it back. So I think coming to core value, and I like your comment, Paul. The core value, what you are in terms of equity, of moral and ethics, of caring, of social justice, as a person. And I think that is a very good comment. I like that comment, Paul. I'm glad you mentioned that, it's a very good comment. Your core value, what you are, and that drives you. And when you have the core value of care, of empathy, of honesty, of trustworthiness, people follow you because they trust you. And I think sometimes we leaders forget that, it's not just, it's a soft part, it's a hard part, of management representatives, it's all hard, but the soft part is of what is mentioned, Paul. I like that comment, Paul. I like it.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
I think we have really a wonderful afternoon, learning so much from you. And I understand that you will be conducting courses,
Yes,
helping Malaysian companies and so on. Some have responded to the discussion, and they want to know how to contact you later and so on. We'll discuss about that afterwards. But we really want to thank you for a wonderful time in terms of sharing and learning. In a way, this COVID-19 has created this type of opportunities for us to get together online, even though it's online. But before this, we couldn't find time to share, to meet. But strangely, life is made difficult. At the same time, with technology, we are given this type of opportunity to meet each other, though you are far away and so on. And I want to thank all the participants this afternoon. They have been very patient, and I'm sure that we want to listen to you again, either in your courses or in another seminar or discourse. So
pleasure.
Thank you again, Jimmy. And thanks to everyone who took part and to my colleagues who organized this. I know you work very hard as usual. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.